The thing that we always believe as Aboriginal people, Indigenous people of Australia, is that we always believe we don't own Mother Earth, the Earth owns us.
At the prospect of exploring Indigenous culture in the Redlands, Brisbane, I was thrilled to catch sight of Indigenous art by way of mosaic tiles in the main street. After this, however, I drew a blank, and the only place I knew that I would be able to view cultural remnants of Moreton Bay's first people would be the library, as I frequent it often. The library had artwork by local Indigenous artists but would not allow me to photograph them. Instead, they pointed me towards the art gallery, where I found an exhibition that included Indigenous art by Marianne Talapau and a fountain outside which quoted a poem by Udjurunonakol, one of Australia's most well-known Indigenous poets and member of Stradbroke Island's Quandamooka tribe. When I left the art gallery, I looked around me. All I could see was evidence of invasion. Shop fronts, buses, cars, roads, a hotel made to look like an old English courthouse, symbols of theft, the spoils of war. Even the Redlands Performing Arts Centre stood against the sky like a steel monstrosity with no evidence of Indigenous input. Everywhere, as far as the eye could see, were totems of a non-Indigenous society, a railway, a marina, boats and privilege. We have memorialised those fallen in wars past. We ensure our roads are mended and development for the hordes that are moving to the region is completed. Even street and park names have either an Anglo or European legacy. After driving and walking for some time, I finally found something that resembled a mention of Indigenous and Torres Strait Islander peoples at the Stradbroke ferry terminal. It was as if the flags flying symbolised a gateway to the island, to the culture of our First Nation people who were barred from our lives by the blue waters of Moreton Bay. I decided that the Cleveland Heritage Trail may be a better place to connect with Indigenous culture. Surely Indigenous history plays an important part of our community story. Sitting in the old lighthouse pouring through books focused on the history of Moreton Bay, I am astounded that there is no evidence of Indigenous occupation of the region. No photographs, no historical accounts regarding traditional custodians of our bay and their practices and culture. All around me are reminders of the barriers between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australia. The crystalline waters of Moreton Bay embody the wide gap between these cultures and an abyss that has swallowed the history of those who cared for and peaceably inhabited this region thousands of years before it was stolen away from them. As I watch the tide smash against the rocks, I realise what has been lost. What laps at this wall, however, is what remains unchanged. No one, no matter how powerful, can hold back the tides or drain the ocean away from our First Nation people. The only way I can feel connected to my Indigenous community members is through the only thing that we can seemingly share that isn't tainted by neo-colonial icons, the remnants of country. As I walk the sunlit parkland towards the bay, I am struck by a sense of returning back to a time that remains untouched. I close my eyes and visualise tribes fossicking for shellfish, fishing in the warm sunshine, bare-skinned children splashing and laughing alongside their families. A lone tree, separate from the others, catches my eye. I notice it's hollow and realise it represents my community. A hollow shell, an empty history. I immerse myself in the roots of the tree and put my hand upon it to anchor myself to what once was. I realise that in these roots exist all the secrets of a long ago time when the Quandamooka people of Moreton Bay rested in her shade, hid in her branches and made canoes from her bark. I have become aware of how gentle the Indigenous footprint upon this earth is, and I am grateful for what I have learned and the connection I have made. But I am overwhelmed by sorrow at the much-loved treasure that has been brutally stolen from those who tended it so lovingly. When Australia was invaded, the heart of this nation was lost, and only when we reconcile ourselves to this fact can we begin to heal.